Hey guys, Blackbart here, bringing you a pretty raw and pretty quick video here. Just kind of going over a few things that were brought up as concerns, and then some news that followed directly after that I think solved the majority of the problems that most people had. So, the first things, I mean, you can see them up here, up that way, up in that top corner. The We're running into some issues on the very first part of the beta where the PST tree, your passive skill tree, was far too simplified, and it did not allow for really that much customization of your character. They say that they are adjusting this, so we'll see how this goes. Uh, the other concerns that I've seen brought up are no access to the story, Act 1, no apocalyptic form, which anybody who's followed any of this knew that it was coming later, but we get this officially now. There's no tier 3 ring to the passive skill tree, and then other questions of how long is this game going to take. So earlier today we had a update come out from the Wolcen group. So we're going to minimize this and pull this up here, giving us a plan of how they are moving forward. Now, this other point here, right off the bat, they're working on a temporary quick solution to allow reset of passive skill trees and characteristics so that people can reset their character without having to level a brand new one. That is huge. And that's not something I put up in the list, but it is just as important. That is supposed to come through in one of the hotfixes. There is supposedly a group of hotfixes coming through today and in some shorter period of time as opposed to the longer stuff here. So keep that in mind. The passive skill tree reset and characteristics, meaning your attributes resets, are going to be coming in hotfixes, not in the plan. So way ahead of this schedule that we're going to be talking about here right now. So we got a lot of big information in here. Story implementation coming in the first content pack, which is scheduled for May, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come directly on time in May, but that is the goal that the team is trying to meet. Story implementation, which means access to the entirety of Act 1, including the boss, which is pretty crazy. Passive skill tree implementation, more meaningful nodes, rewarding. I'd imagine this is when those intermediate nodes are going to come in, and then hopefully a few options around the third tier. New modifiers for each active skill. Hopefully this also means some new active skills because there weren't really that many in the beta. Kind of another side concern that people have had, but making these modifiers branch out to an additional 4 down that row should be interesting. Content patch 2 later, so we're talking only 2 months later is the projection. Wrath of Serra is a supposedly harder cooperative game mode where there's a lot of risk because it's a lot harder, but the benefits are greater. So these characters that are in here are going to have modifiers that make them harder than the current yellow elites that are in the game. And the current yellow elites that are in the game are pretty crazy as it is. They're also adding world modifiers where you can add different mods to random dungeons, including different types of monsters. There's even one, it says, example, all enemies in the dungeon are specialists and elites. That's pretty nuts. So that's crazy. It's kind of a cool way to, kind of similar to mapping, where you can roll a specific modifier on a dungeon and kind of move from there. But these sound a little bit more crazy than just resist and things doing more damage. Player customization for male characters, so this will come in, which I don't really care about, but it's kind of cool. Some people have complained about that. Although these are strictly for male characters, so that it doesn't look like they've completed all the female variations of all the skills. New active skills. Okay, so here's this should answer the question. These are new modifiers for the active skills that are already in the game. These are new active skills and new passive skill tree sections. Content patch 3 coming in September. again, as planned. Competitive mode, this I'd imagine is taking these and recording fastest time clearings and things of that nature for those world modifiers. Pet with loot filter is something that was brought up from the very beginning. I'm not 100% sure how it's going to be activated here, but Apocalyptic Forms confirm that this actually is one of the Apocalyptic Forms, which should be interesting. After that, some interesting information that was actually released in this as well was that they are kind of going along the Path of Exile marketing grouping, where you have microtransactions that are specifically cosmetic, haircuts, faces, cool character effects, etc. Same stuff from Path of Exile, but no pay to win related elements. That will help pay for the $30 pays for the initial game. The MTX pays for one free major gameplay extension every 4 months, which I'm assuming will include probably different skills, rebalancing, different stuff, kind of like Path of Exile has, maybe an event, that kind of thing. And then one new story expansion every 8 months, which is talking like it's basically a new act every 8 months, which is pretty insane. It will allow us to bring new, exciting game modes, enemies, items, skills to the game, and extend the story of Wolcen, Lord's Mayhem, which leads into their idea about a growing world, which makes sense. Passive skill tree improvement. This is pretty big. You can see here. We took the decision to simplify the PST from the beta for balance purpose, bringing the most meaningful choices into the third rings for advanced classes, which means we don't have access to those yet because they're not complete. The current PST seems a bit empty for some of you, myself included, and the majority of the people who played a lot of this game kind of go, why was there so little in the middle and very lack of choice? Like, you had basically 6 choices, period, and that got you through those sections. But they're going to add more density to it, hopefully revamping the spell section, because there's almost no spell damage compared to attack damage, and the balance in game is extremely off because of that. You pretty much can't play a caster right now because there's no ability to increase the damage compared to melee and arrow gun boyer gameplay. List of future classes to be presented, will be presented on the Trello map, which I have listed on our Twitch stream, and then I'll post it down in the links below in the comments. But the third rings for specialization of your character, and we'll have things that are very specific to tanking or melee with life leech, like a battle mage, and then toxic damage, necromancer. There's also a bunch of other ideas that have been getting worked on, just are not complete. So they have also addressed a couple of the things with how dark the game feels and whether or not they've gone too dark versus shiny. So they're kind of balancing this. We'll see how this works out once we actually get to see the content patch 1, where we can actually see Act 1 instead of just tidbits of it. So that, along with this right here, they revamped their website, which is behind us here. Looks pretty good. It's got some information on it. Got some cool stuff here. As you go down, progression. Here's where you can see Apocalyptic Form. This actually is an Apocalyptic Form that we haven't seen before. Pretty cool. Enemies that we haven't seen before. You can see that Apocalyptic Form actually here against a whole bunch of guys. That's pretty cool. Bunch of enemies we haven't seen. Most of these are environments that we've seen. The only other really cool one was this one right here, where there's an armor set that we haven't seen. That's pretty neat. And then I missed one. We cannot give a precise date for the official release, but our objective is to release the game before the end of the year. So that's really good information. Hopefully, they can keep on schedule. I'm assuming there's going to be some delays just based on how their schedules have come out in the past. They've run a little bit behind because they've been a smaller team, but they've added people recently. So hopefully these are realistic timeframes, and we will be seeing a lot of new content here in just the next month, which is super exciting for me. I don't know about I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited about this. I really wanted to get this information out here for you guys. I'm going to leave a link directly to it so you can read through it yourself if you wish. But definitely put some comments down below. Let me know if you still have any other major concerns that haven't been addressed. There's still a couple smaller ones that I'm still giving feedback to these guys on, but um, I'm super excited, and I'm glad I could bring you this information. Sorry it's so raw. I was at work for about 14-16 hours today, so I just didn't have time to really do much else. Other than that, I think we're good to go, and I will have hopefully a much prettier video the next time around. And we'll get you guys some build guides here soon, maybe some run throughs, see what's going on, and we'll leave it up to that. So you guys have a good night. Thanks for dropping by.